Hello and welcome everyone. Today we are going to look at reporting capabilities of the Soffront CRM. What you're looking at right now is a home screen where you can have both queries and reports available as links in any of these tiles. You can have reports pre-created and you would be able to click on these reports and run them. For instance, we have some examples of reports right here in the reports project entity reports and reports right here. So we can click on reports and run them. So we can click on leads by status, and I have a report right here. Now you could click on these bars and drill down into data. Very similarly, you could click on leads by industry, and you have these bars right here. You can click and drill down into the data. You could change these reports dynamically. And you can click on each section of the pie and you can drill down into the data corresponding to these sections of the pie. In addition to just drilling down, you'll be able to export this report to Microsoft Excel and print it out at your convenience. Now, let us take a look at the process by which we can create these reports dynamically, and we can access the report manager using the fixed links tile, which is there on the upper left-hand corner. So we click on report manager right here, which gives us access to the reports which we provide out of the box. Or these are all the canned reports that we have provided you. Now you might be wondering why are there so few of them. The fact is, in this report manager, the reports are grouped by the tables. For instance, we have leads over here. Similarly, we have contacts. We have a whole lot of contacts over here, reports associated with contacts. Similarly, we have accounts, a whole bunch of reports associated with accounts, and so on. So in here, you will find all the different reports which are available in different, categorized by different objects or tables. So now let us take a look at some of the reporting capabilities. Now, in order to do that, first of all, let us see how to execute or run a report. As you've seen before, we can click on a link on the home screen and execute a report. Very similarly, we can select a report over here in this section in the report manager, for instance, accounts by industry, and click on run or execute to execute this report. When I click over here, I would be able to generate this report on the fly, run this report on the fly. As you see, it opens up a tab right here so that I can always go back to my report manager and run a different report. For instance, I can select something called accounts by status graph, something like that. So we would be able to have two reports. So I have industry right here and accounts by status graph both opened up in different tabs for me. So I can click and run and drill down data at my convenience. I can convert this report into a 3D bar diagram or a pie chart, something like this, to give me an understanding of how many customers I have and partners and how many of them are ex-partners and things like that. So that's how we execute reports and how we open them up on different tabs. Now let's see how we can create some of these reports from scratch. When we click on the plus sign, we have the option to run different or create different types of reports. There are tabular, two-line, detailed, distribution, trend, management, and matrix report. Out of all of these, the management report is the one that is reserved for Soffront development. If these reports are the ones which we can execute by, we can execute them if it is already available in the system, but you would not be able to create these reports by yourself because these are created through customization or coding. Now, let us take a look at some of the standard reports which you would be able to create and execute on the system. To begin with, let's take a few examples. Tabular report. Tabular report. Let us first take a look at how a tabular report looks like. So we have something over here called International Accounts Tabular Report. So right here, we can simply select and run this. And as you can see, the information is displayed in a tabular format. So that basically means there are columns. And you can define these columns, what information would be displayed, and you can also define what type of information or based on what condition this information would be displayed. So that is all defined in the tabular report, and you can run this, and here you get the data. Now, let's take a look at some other type of reports. We have distribution, which we've seen, and there are TwoLine reports, and so on. So let's first start with the tabular report. We click on the plus sign to create a new report, and then we click on tabular. Now, when we click on tabular, a new tab opens up on the top, and we can see a screen where we can create our tabular report. So let's just give a name over here, which we will say tabular example. Or we can say example. And here you would be able to select a query, predefined queries. You would be able to create these queries using our standard query builder, or an advanced search saves them, and then it will be all available in this list. So you would be able to select any query which is a public query in the system or a private query that you have created. So for instance, I wanted to create a tabular report for my customer accounts. I can do that. I select the customer accounts and I add the fields which I want to show up. So I select a customer, city, the date it was created, and some other phone number, who the sales rep is, and state. So you can double click on these lists or select and click on add, whichever is convenient. And you create a list like this, hit save, which will save your report. The tabular report saves successfully, and then we execute, just run. So when we click on that and we have our tabular report created, it's this easy. So once we have our tabular report, we can email them, we can save them, and we can click on the Excel icon to export this data to Excel, and we can also print it out using the print icon. Now, if you wanted, and you'll find this tabular report which you just created and saved is in the system already, and we can see that right here, tabular report example. Now, let's say if you wanted to edit this or modify the report in some way, you select this report and click on modify. Now, these are very generic steps. If you wanted to modify a report, you select a report and click on modify. If you wanted to create a new report, you click on the plus sign. So if you want to copy a report, you click on the copy function. So that's how we perform most of these perform the functions that are there on the top. So now let's click on modify. When you click on modify, you're able to access the same UI or user interface that you saw before. So here you can modify this report. So let's say you wanted to add country and hit save. So now your modifications are saved. You can run this report and you'll find country showing up on the right-hand side. So this is how we can create a report and execute it on the fly. So now this is our tabular report. Now let's take up something interesting. Let me first tell you what this TwoLine report is. A TwoLine report is very, very similar to tabular report, except that it has one extra column or one extra row to identify, and it gives you an extra bit of information like a contact ID or a company name, which will get your attention immediately before you go through the entire report. So that's basically the TwoLine report, and as you can see, the interface is very, very similar to tabular report. And you have the extra field, which is the TwoLine. So this is the second line, and you can either put the account ID or the company name, something that catches your attention. So this is the user interface of TwoLine report. The process of creating this is very, very similar to the tabular report, which I just went through. Now, let's look at something more interesting. We have a detailed report basically is very similar to tabular report, except that in the detailed report you can have longer text fields visible clearly, because in this report the information is not displayed as tabs or columns, rather as vertically organized. Let me quickly create one. This is detailed example. So just as before, I'm choosing the same type of report, customer accounts, and I'm adding longer fields, longer text fields. So I can select the address, complete address, and then I'm adding more fields like phone, email, industry, fax, all of that. Hit save. The report saved successfully. It says the system says that, and we click on run, and there we go. We have the information being displayed. If you observe, this information is not in tabular format. It is organized horizontally. So this is how the information is displayed in the screen when you are running a detailed report. If you wanted to edit this report, you can always come back to this UI or user interface and then modify this. So that's the detailed report. Now let's look at an interesting report, which is a distribution report. This is the most commonly used report that we try to run. So here we have a very similar kind of UI to the tabular report. First step is to simply provide a name. The name is, let's say, distribution report example, and then we can choose the query over here, or we can, if we do not choose a query, in that case it basically means that you are choosing all the records within the contact database. So you can select either customer accounts or all accounts, whichever is which makes sense for your business process. So in this case, I'm going to select customer accounts, and I wanted to segregate them by industry. So I choose the x-axis as industry, and I have all my industries right here. I can simply select add all, and it adds all these different values in the selected fields. Please note that there are limits to the maximum number of fields which goes into this. Most likely you will not hit it. So sometimes you will find that you created a list and some of the fields are again pushed back to your available values. In that case, you would immediately know you've hit the limit of this list right here. So next is you have sum of. So sum of record count will be displayed or it will basically count the records if you wanted to display that on your graph. Alternatively, you can show the size of these companies, and can sum up that size, basically number of employees who are using the application in different industries. So if you want to do that, you can generate this right here. In my case, I'm going to just sum up the count. Now, apart from that, you can also find top 5 customers, top 10 customers in a graphical format like this. So you would be able to do that as well in terms when you wanted to generate a report based on revenue and things like that. You can run it on opportunities. You can run on tables like invoices and generate customers in terms of the top 5 revenue generating customers. So you can do that using the report generator which you're seeing right now. So I have created a report right here which says customer accounts. So I'm choosing customer accounts and we are segregating them by industry. And I have selected 2D pie diagram. Now I save this report right here and I click on the run, and I have a report right here which shows me all the different industries my customer contacts belong to. I can click on these sections of the pie and drill down into the data if I wish to do so. Now, if I wanted to change this report dynamically on the fly, I can do that by clicking on these options right here: funnel, line, dot, bar diagram, 2D bar diagram, and so on. So I can modify this report at my own will while I am running the report. Now, this is the best part. You can actually have several reports open in different tabs, and you can click on these tabs to go into these reports. So that's a distribution report which we created, and if you wanted to modify parameters over here, we can do that right from here. Let's now take a look at the next type of report, which is a trend report. Trend reports are interesting when you wanted to see how much information, like for instance, in support processes, you wanted to see open and closed trend, how much tickets are being opened and how much tickets are being closed. And this, as you can see, has a very, very similar user interface to the distribution report, because eventually it generates a distribution for you. So it's a distribution or a graph that is generated for you when you run this report. It shows you the trends, the highs and the lows and things like that. So you simply define the name, title, you define a query if you wanted to use that. Let's say you wanted to see customers and you select that. And you want to run a trend on a selected field. So you can select which field you wanted to run the trend on. So you can have a status field, which might make sense in this case. So statuses, you want to see when you're getting most customers, when your customers are quitting, or when you're getting more partners. Over a let us do customers by partners instead of customers. So we can see a trend on when we are acquiring new customers and partners. So here we are generating the x-axis, which is the dates. So we select the created over here, and we can also have customer since, which shows when this customer was created. So this will typically have the customer since. It gives the information of when the customer was acquired. So we can select this. Now, I don't really have, if I have a lot of data on this. So this is how I create this. I can also show cumulative, if you want to show cumulative values when you're getting these customers. You can do that. So this is a trend. So we can save this and run. I only have 2003 right here, unfortunately, but you would be able to have, if you have several years worth of data, you can actually see which years you did highest amount of customers and partners. As you can see right here, I have only one customer. Now, if I wanted to change the parameters, I can go back over here and I can run this over several years. So I can go up till, let's say I am selecting 2010, and I'm choosing this, and I'm running this report. So I can click over here and run this. So I see 2010, 2011, 12, and 13. So across 4 years, the customer acquisition, I can see that there is quite a number of partners that were acquired during 2010, and we had 20 customers versus 2012, we have much less. So this is a trend report. You can change this into line diagram. That makes more sense to give you peaks and bottoms. So that's also something you can do utilizing the standard report capabilities. Note that we are actually building these reports on the fly. Now, let's take a look at another very, very powerful report, which is called the matrix. And this is the last report that we would like to cover today. So this is a matrix report that we would take a look at. Let's take a look at what this matrix report does. First of all, let's try to understand that. So we have something called accounts by status matrix. So we can actually run this and see what a matrix report looks like. So here we can see a matrix created where we have a column and rows. We have columns and rows. In the columns, we have defined sales reps. So we can see by sales rep, the different types of accounts that are being handled, customers, discards, ex-customers, future partners. And this is being done, this report is running within a defined date range. So I'm seeing data for a specific date range, which I can modify on the fly using this drop-down or by choosing custom date ranges like this. Now, in addition to all of that, as a user, I would also be able to slice and dice the information based on my requirement by choosing the rows and columns. So I would be able to essentially change the types. So for instance, now I wanted to see by type, what type of accounts I have. Again, then I can select by industry. By industry, how much customers and partners and all the other different statuses I have. So you would be able to slice and dice this matrix dynamically when you're running this matrix report. So that is the whole benefit. And you would be able to run this report and drill down this data by clicking on these numbers. As you're seeing this, anywhere you see all these numbers, you can click on them and drill them down. So at the bottom, you see the subtotals so that you are able to see how many total customers you have, discards, futures, partners, and so on. And on the right-hand side, you see another total, which is basically the by industry. So you can see how many total accounts you have in automobile and so on. And in the middle, you are able to see how many customers or partners, and each of these values, you are able to see how many of them are there. On the right-hand side, you are able to see a graph indicating the percentages in these industries. And on the lowest corner, right-hand corner, you see the grand total, which is you have 25 customers which were returned within this date range. So you may have much more, but what you need to remember, this report is running in a specified date range. Now, let us try to see how we can create a similar report from scratch and execute it. So now let's go in and click on the plus sign right here, and we have matrix. We would give a name over here. So this is example, matrix example, and we can select. Now, once again, as before, you can select a query over here, which will run the report on the results set from that query. But if you are not using a query, it means that you are running this report for all the records in the CRM database. Now, let's take a look at the other fields which are here. So if you have defined targets for which can be utilized for productivity reports, or you have quotas for sales and things like that, you can use the target functionality. Otherwise, you just simply select no, don't have to display targets. You have the rows right here. So rows, we select any field from the CRM. So let's say I want to see by industry, and I want to group. So let's say I want to group these by industry, and I want to see the actual companies when I open up the groups. So I have group by and rows. So I'm selected 2. On the columns, I can either display totals only versus I can select some parameters like status. So I would be able to generate a matrix. Now, sorting. So it says ascending, descending. You can decide on what is going to be sorted, how you want to sort it. I'll just leave it as it is. On the right-hand side, I have the columns, column sum by. So the sum total value, which is going to be displayed on each on the matrix, you can decide on record count. And if there are currency fields, you can choose that. This is very good when you're building forecast type reports using opportunities. The dollar amounts can be visible on the matrix report. In this case, I'm simply counting the number of accounts I have in these industries. So right here, I have populated most of the values, display a percentage. I can choose to turn it off if I wanted to. And then I have the next part is the date filter, date range. Observe that here we are selecting a field, the field which this report is going to utilize. So if I wanted to define the date range based on the date, the create date of the customer, then I select create. Or we can also run the date range by customer since. That means the day we acquired the customer or converted the customer. That in that case, we select customer since. You can add your custom fields, any other date fields which you want to run this report on. You can have that, and as long as you have data there, you would be able to run this report on that specific field. So let's use the create. And duration, we can select fiscal year, or you can select today. Now, when you select something like this, that basically means this matrix is dynamic. You would not have to change the dates. If it is this month, so if you see this date is 1st November to 30th November 2013, next month it will automatically become 1st December to 31st December 2013. So it is a rolling report, so it will automatically roll forward. So you can click on Save this report. System says it saved successfully, and then we click on Run. I doubt if I have any data over here, so that's what this doesn't have data. I select all, so I have data now. So this is all the data which is there in my database. So I have groups over here. So I have financial services, opticals, construction, high tech, and so on. And I'm seeing all the customers. Customer statuses or stages over here. So I've got customers, discards, partners, so right here on the top. But since these are all grouped, and we decided to display the company names, we can click over here and see the different companies under these groups. So I can see there's one customer in BCD Corp in automobile, and this other one, Carva, Zero USA, or something like that. It's also in the customer status. So you would be able to drill down within these groups, for say right here, and drill them down. At the same time, you can change these groups. So you can select priorities to define what priorities these accounts, and you can, based on the prioritization, you can see them. So there are different ways of running this report. As I showed you before, you can slice and dice this information in any way you choose. In addition to just seeing this information as a matrix, you can instantly convert this into a graph. So now you've converted the matrix into a graphical or a chart form, and you're able to see this graph, and you are able to also modify this chart dynamically as well. So you can modify this chart as a line diagram, 2D multiple bars, and stacks right here. So the matrix resulted in all these different graphical formats. So we have two reports side by side right now, one in graphical, one in matrix format. And if I close this down, there are some other options which you can do. You can save this information directly on your hard drive. You can print or export this to Microsoft Excel, all of which you're able to do it right from the screen. So this is how we would be able to create, modify reports using the standard reporting functions. Now, you might be wondering, how would we be able to bring up one of these reports on our home screen, and so that I can click on it and execute it? So let's return to our home screen. We have our home screen right here, and we have a bunch of reports under this reports widget. We can click on the add right here and click on reports to add a report right here. So I can click on accounts, and I can select the reports that we created. So we have a couple of reports that we created. Let's see if we can find some of them right here. Matrix example, and I add this to my home screen so that I can click over here and execute it in one shot. So that's how we create reports, modify reports on Soffront CRM. We can run these reports from the report manager, or we can add them to the home screen and run them in a single click. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you all for joining, and we will be covering some more interesting topics fairly soon. Thank you once again. Goodbye.